Welcome to State of Unity podcast, where we talk with people who used to live the ordinary and are now living in the extraordinary. Leaving yourself open to spontaneous opportunities can lead to some of the best experiences of your life, oftentimes being transformational. Katherine's story is a perfect example of how planning and preparation failed, but spontaneous decisions led to an unforgettable experience and a more confident self. Her voice is not creepy at all, right?
With a little notification.
So Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today. I love how, I don't even remember how it came to be. I think, we were talking about walking in the grass without shoes. And you mentioned how you had started running when I was checking out at your work. And you were mentioning how you just started running, but now you're getting used to the concrete again because you had been abroad for so long. And I had asked, where? And it just so happened to be Zanzibar.
Right? Like, oh my gosh, that's my place.
Right.
It was. I understand. It was amazing. Some of my friends are still there now, and I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I know. I was supposed to go back in a couple weeks, actually, and I feel like I need to just calm down a little bit and get some roots here for a bit, and my time will come when I can go back. I just need to be patient.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll visit there again soon. I would love to, don't get me wrong, but I want to see other places before I go back to one of the only 3 places outside of the country I've been. So, expand my horizons before I go back to the same place.
Yes, I understand that struggle as well. So how did you end up, what prompted you to pick there in the first place, or what were your goals in going there? Did you know people?
Is that okay?
Sorry?
It's kind of a long story. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So kind of dates back to actually my sophomore year of high school. It was the summer before my junior year, and I was supposed to go to Tanzania to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with a program. Should I name the program?
No.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to Mount Kilimanjaro with a program. And then 2 weeks before that program was supposed to start, I actually got in a golf cart accident. Like, the person driving flipped it over and it damaged my knee pretty badly. And so I wasn't able to go on my trip to Tanzania, and I ended up losing all the money for that trip and everything. So that was pretty devastating at the time. I was super excited to go. I had been to Thailand before with the same program and had an amazing time. So that was just really disappointing, but there was nothing I could do. And then school started back up and I didn't have that opportunity again. Then fast forward to graduating my senior year, 2020, amidst COVID lockdowns. I was set to go to study in New Zealand, actually, at the University of Otago. And then COVID hit, New Zealand shut down. New Zealand is still shut down. And so I was just working at home, mostly as a lifeguard. And then, gosh, how do I explain this? I just wanted to do something. Like, I felt stuck in a routine and I was bored. I hadn't been studying or doing anything that interested me. And so I started looking into programs. I found gap year programs, but they were insanely expensive. So I looked at volunteer abroad programs, and I found one that was in Arusha, Tanzania. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. I meant to go to Tanzania before. I think it was just meant to be that I find it now instead of then. And then I can also climb Mount Kilimanjaro while I'm there. And then once fast forward and I'm in Arusha, I ended up not climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, staying there for months longer than expected to stay there. And I ended up in Zanzibar for about 3 weeks out of the 3.5, almost 4-month trip. That's kind of how it happened.
I feel like time in Zanzibar just
it
wraps around you in a way. Does that make sense?
We're in no time has passed. When you're about to leave or looking back on it, you're like, that went by so quickly. But when you're there, it feels like you've known everyone that you just met for a lifetime. It's amazing.
Yes, I loved it. That was, well, so I did Kilimanjaro for the first week and then went to Zanzibar. And I felt like that was where everything kind of sunk in with just the culture and appreciation for life and not having to rush through everything. And I don't know if it was just, I had been gone for that long at that point, or it really is that different there versus Tanzania. But I just felt so changed in the best way.
No, it's really, the culture is very similar and very different in Zanzibar and mainland Tanzania. The main differences in the culture is that it's actually much stricter in Zanzibar because they're a Muslim population primarily, compared to mainland Tanzania, where I was in Arusha, it was primarily a Christian population. So in terms of the rules, like, I don't know if you heard about, yeah, the president of Tanzania passed away while I was there. And the main difference, so he passed away, and my trip was planned for about a week or two after he passed away. I did not plan my trip to Zanzibar when I knew that he had passed away. But in Arusha, you could still go out clubbing, you could still like play loud music and celebrate and everything. But the second I stepped foot in Zanzibar, all of that was completely not allowed. They shut down all the clubs. Many tourists were getting in trouble for, having like dance parties and playing loud music because, they were in mourning. So it makes sense.
Oh, wow.
But it was just much stricter in Zanzibar than it was in Arusha.
That's interesting. Yeah, I definitely heard about the president's death, which I know just seeing everything that they had, the billboards and how often they talked about him, I'm sure it was.
Oh, it was an experience being there because it was a huge cultural shift for Tanzanians. And I didn't really see it much in Zanzibar besides the restrictions, but on mainland Tanzania, I was going to church on Sunday with one of my teachers. I was volunteering at a school named Shining Star, and one of the teachers was taking me to church, or maybe forcibly dragging me to church every weekend. I did really enjoy it, but I just didn't want to wake up early on a Sunday. And I went to church the weekend after it had been announced that President Magufuli died. And it was just the most horrendous sobbing from people in the church. Just, bent over, like praying out loud, screaming, praying, like bawling on the floor, actually. Like it was intense. And I don't know, I hadn't realized how much love they had for that man.
Yeah, that's intense. Very different than here, but I guess this is America.
I think most of the country would be celebrating if that happened to our previous president. So it's a little different.
Yeah, Michael Jackson comes to mind when he...
yeah, that's actually really accurate. Was there Michael Jackson?
So you ended up staying a lot longer than what you had originally planned.
Yes.
How did that happen? So I'll be honest, when I was on my way to the airport, a huge part of me was honestly begging them, like, just keep driving. I'm okay not going back.
Right.
I probably would have been just fine if if I missed my flight. So I understand not wanting to leave. So I'm just curious, was that kind of decided on a whim? And did you feel like you were missing out on things back in the US?
Absolutely not.
No.
Not missing out on things. No, so it kind of happens slowly. The decision happened slowly, and then at the end to stay 3 weeks longer than my other extended date happened very quickly. But initially, so I was with this volunteer program, and pretty much every single one of the volunteers who arrived in my group decided to extend. I asked if I could go to Zanzibar for a week and then 2 weeks and have it not count against my my bought time at the volunteer house, and they agreed, and I was like, awesome, so I can stay for longer for no extra cost. That's amazing. Wow. And then at the end of my stay at the volunteer house, I met these 3 people. They're all English. Then they were like, don't leave, we like you. You can stay with us in this house we're running for free. like, just stay. And so I called my airline and was like, hey, my COVID test didn't come in time, which was true. It didn't come in time, so I was not lying. It was late, and then extended for another 3 weeks, sort of. There's more drama with my visa than that, but yeah.
Excellent. I love it. That's so funny that is sometimes all it takes is just somebody to say, just stay.
Yeah, it was just one girl actually out of that friend group who was like, I mean, I'm fine with you staying here if you want to stay. So
I love it. So it sounds like you felt pretty comfortable and at ease there, but I imagine there were probably some challenges. Is there anything that comes to mind when you think about like a biggest obstacle that you had when you were there?
yes, so one of the biggest ones was just, so I was there for a very long time, and when I decided to extend, I was still like very caught up in the moment of, you know, being here. This is insane. I'm with a bunch of people that are, this is super fun, etc. And then the longer you stay there, the more you miss like friends from home and people that you can really talk to on a deeper level. And for the longest time, I sort of didn't have that there, and I started becoming really insecure. And for anyone who struggles with mental health issues, traveling can be absolutely amazing for you. And it really was for me overall, but it was also difficult to cope sometimes with not having those outlets and that support system. And often people are amazing, and you can find people to talk to, people who have been in similar situations or deal with similar struggles. But for a while I was struggling and didn't have many people to talk to about it.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Especially when you have those cultural differences. It's like you said, that deeper connection can be more challenging to come by. So how did you get through that then? Did you just reach out to people back home more often or?
Yeah, I reached out to people from home, but with the time difference for us, as I'm sure you know, it was very difficult to. I ended up doing what I needed to for myself. Since I was living in a volunteer house, I was living with a bunch of other people. At first, I was in a room that had 12 beds in it, and then I moved into a room with 4, and then they added another bunk bed, so it was 6. And that was just very crowding and overwhelming for me. So I was always around people, and it's not good if you can't take your own like Zen time. So I got a hotel for a few nights and stayed on my own, but still like meeting up with my friends from the volunteer house for social things. And then I also, with the friends that I ended up living with, reached out to them, and they became kind of my support system. And then once I was living with them, I had no issues whatsoever, just because I had those people that I felt really, really close to.
That's great. Awesome. So of everything that you experienced there, if I were to ask like what's the highlight memory or your favorite moment, what comes to mind?
There's so many. There was one moment I was on safari in the Serengeti National Park, and we went camping there. So Johnson was our safari guide, and Ollie was the other safari guide. It was big enough that we needed 2 cars of people on safari. And that night, Johnson, another volunteer, Ollie, and I were all just chatting around. And then another volunteer who's really into photography comes up and is like, can we take the car out into the grass to take a cool picture of the stars? And Johnson was like, of course we can. Why wouldn't we do that? So y'all like it's just a couple of us that go into the car, and they take us far away from the camp lights, and we go out into this little clearing surrounded by tall grass, which we were definitely never supposed to do. And had Johnson and Ollie not had much kanyagi, I'm not sure if we would have, but we went out, and I didn't leave the car because I was a little scared, but you know how the roof pops up? Got to get on the back of the roof and just look up at the stars. And in that moment, you feel so small, and also, wow, this is cool, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just, I had that feeling of like everything's going to be okay. So that was one for sure.
One of mine is with the stars too. It was, so with the Kilimanjaro hike, as you may know, the day you summit, they wake you up at midnight to do the last 6 hours of the hike. And I will never forget getting out of my tent that night. And I mean, you're up so high and seeing the stars. I swear I could have reached out and touched the Milky Way.
It's
It was
just,
incredible.
how
Yeah.
was that way, the last bit of the hike?
You're better off not knowing if it's something you want to do.
That's fair. I've heard, I don't know if you could top it though. I have heard horror stories among horror stories of what it's like. Less so with climbing the mountain, more so of the after effects.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't awful. The only thing I would say is for the down days, definitely wear tennis shoes and not hiking boots.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
Because you're sliding forward, and so my shoes had the hard toe to it. I probably
Oh,
don't need to say more. Luckily, I
yeah.
didn't lose any toenails,
Oh, that's good.
but it
Some,
was painful. Yeah, the toes and the knees were definitely aching by the end of it.
well, I'm sure I've heard that going down is actually much worse than going up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it sounds counterintuitive to what you'd think, you know?
yeah. And I think because they kind of rush you down too, because
Mm.
they're probably excited to be done, and you want to be like a shower, right? All I can think about is a shower. It's been
Oh, I'm
5 days. Um, yeah, so you're definitely moving at a faster pace. But yeah, I do feel it's harder on the body as well.
Yeah, I had some friends that just had a lot of problems with their feet that I will not dive into. And then some
Mm.
also altitude got to their bladder and such. And yeah, weird things. Weird. So that's where I'm coming from. But I still,
Okay.
but it doesn't matter.
Well, coming from Florida, I wanted to make sure I gave myself enough time to acclimate. So I think I did the 6 day tour versus the 5 days, the fastest one.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not in a rush for any reason. Let me just do an extra day or two to make sure I make it. Yeah.
I
So,
was planning on doing the 7 day one when I was still planning on doing it.
okay. Yeah. I know some people just, altitude doesn't work for them.
Yeah, I was having issues. So in Arusha, I was trying to go for runs, and there was a beautiful coffee plantation near where I was staying at the volunteer house, and they would let us come onto the plantation to work out, run, or you could walk through there. And there was this amazing place called the Coffee Lodge, and it's like uh, one of the most expensive hotels or whatever to stay at in Arusha, but it's just gorgeous. It's so open and they have wonderful coffee and everything, wonderful workers. I made friends with pretty much all of them because I was there way too often.
Mhm.
And um, oh gosh, so you could just walk through there. But every time I would try to go for a run, I would get so tired and just like winded within 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm someone who likes to run like 5 or 6 miles a day. So that was just absolutely astonishing to me that altitude mattered that much with working out.
Yeah, altitude makes a huge difference. Also, a little known fact probably African coffee is so good. I had no idea.
Oh my goodness. Did you ever? So at the base of Kilimanjaro, I never climbed it, but I went to the base of it.
Mhm.
At the base of Kilimanjaro, there is this little place called Babu Coffee. Means grandpa coffee, as I'm sure you're aware. And we basically got to um, watch and learn how to make coffee or how they make coffee there by this wonderfully eccentric old man who called himself Babu Coffee, Grandpa Coffee. And I need to send you pictures and everything because it was just so funny. And we tried to ask him how many cups he has a day, and it was something ridiculous, like 5 or 6. And then he called himself, oh God, what did he say? He said, you know how some people are alcoholics? They drink too much. He was like, that is me with coffee. That was not obviously the right accent at all, but that,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, yeah, I love the coffee there. When I first landed, they picked me up and took me to a little coffee shop.
mhm.
And I swear, I don't know if it was just because I was so jet lagged and hungry, but I swear it was the best latte I had had in my whole life.
No, it's amazing. The coffee is amazing, which you wouldn't expect. And I didn't often see locals drinking coffee, weirdly.
More tea, I think, was their
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, definitely. I only ever got offered tea, um, which was interesting. A lot of the food there, if I'm being honest, like food that you buy from restaurants catered towards white people are obviously not their, staple food.
Right.
And their staple food was not very good, if I'm being honest. What was your experience?
So when I was in Zanzibar, I think I ate octopus coconut curry every single day, and I
Okay.
loved it. And then so there was that, and then there was a little stand. We'll call it a restaurant of sorts.
Yeah.
I think they have the thing where they fry the chicken and the fries, and then like one plastic table with plastic chairs. But it was maybe, I don't know, I would guess somewhere around a half a mile up the road from where I was staying. And it was like $2.50 in US dollars for a half of a chicken, fries or chips, as they call it, because of the European influence, and then a salad, I think, that came with it. And it was enough food that it lasted for me for like 3 meals. It was so delicious. Probably rice too, but yeah, so I actually loved the food. And even on the hike on Kilimanjaro, the food that they made along the way was amazing.
Really, my experience was a little different, but um, the things I did love were Chips My Eye with Pili Pili. So, do you know what Chips My Eye is?
No.
Okay, Chips My Eye is basically, I mean, it's French fries, chips, cooked into egg, like scrambled egg, basically.
Oh, yes, I did have that.
Yeah, just whatever. That was really good. And do you know what Pili Pili is? The hot sauce, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, super good.
So the place that I had that was actually the what they called the hot spring, which was not a hot spring, it was just a natural spring.
Yeah, it's not a hot spring at all. Yeah, I had it there as well. They only offered meat and Chips My Eye, and I'm
Yeah.
vegetarian. And then Zanzibar, I guess I wasn't thinking I'm not able to eat any of the seafood. Just I'm vegetarian or tried it, and that was definitely something that all my friends raved about when I was there, which is the wonderful seafood.
So do you feel like you're the same person as you were when you left? Or do you feel like it changed you?
Changed me a lot, a lot. I can tell you, I would have never agreed to do a podcast with someone prior.
Really?
No, I was not very confident at all. And this is a weird aspect to mention, but I had never danced really. Like I danced on my own, but never in a crowd of people or anything. And then the first night that I was there, or no, second night, I arrived really like late at night the first night. And then the second night I was there, we went on a Moshi trip and we went out to this local bar and it was live music and it was just all these Afro beats and immediately had a few drinks in me and I like danced away. And from then on, I've had no fear dancing around people or anything. I even ended up in a music video for one of the Tanzanian bands. You can look it up. It's called,
I would love to look that up.
yeah, it's called Mama Vanessa by Jambo Squad. And they just happened to be at the hot spring when me and my friends were at the hot spring. And they were like, hey, will you guys be in our video? So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And that was day 2 of my trip. So I had gone, never danced in my life around other people to dancing in a music video that is now online for everyone to see. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think there's something to be said, and kind of my whole mission is that when you travel, you completely remove yourself from all of your comforts, right? And so when everything's new, it kind of allows you to choose who you want to be in a way, and like step into those things that before you'd be like, no, this is too scary. I had a similar thing there where I was taken out by some locals to a local bar and the Afro beats playing and the music, like you can't sit still and listen to it. The beat is so good. And I'm looking around and just everybody's just dancing and enjoying themselves and having a great time. And it's so carefree. I loved it.
And just knowing there's no judgment, no matter like what kind of attempt you make, like, it was so freeing. And I agree, the music there, I can't go to a club back home and think this is just as enjoyable. and listen to rap and everything to dance to. It's fine to listen to. I don't that much, but to dance to that, where's the rhythm? Where can you like get into it like you can with
Yeah.
Afrobeats?
Yeah.
So I listen to Afrobeats constantly.
Me too.
My friends hate it actually.
Oh,
and I'm like,
no.
no, just go to Africa. You'll understand. Like, also maybe just keep listening or try to dance to it. Like, they're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hooked as well. So what would you say? So knowing that it had that change in you then, if so there's so many people who they're wanting to step into that confidence, but I think their fear is just holding them back. So what would you say to help people get outside of that?
Interesting. I had a lot of conversations with fellow volunteers and people I met while I was there talking about how a lot of people are just too scared to go to a country like that, especially a third world country on their own, whatever. And a lot of people before I left, actually, only one of my friends supported me in my decision to go do this. They were like,
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. Even like my coworkers were like, Tanzania, where are you going? Isn't that dangerous? Like, what, how are you going to be able to eat? Like, just ridiculous notions about where I was going, what I was doing.
I
And
can relate to all those things.
yeah, I mean, I guess I'm fairly rebellious in nature. So when people say like, you shouldn't do that, I'm like, yeah, well, now I want to. So
I can also
I,
relate to that.
um, most of the time what we talked about was just like understanding that I don't, I guess I guess there wasn't really a try to help those people. It was just knowing that like we never had that fear to begin with, or at least most of the people I talked to were, I guess the best word is free spirited, where we're like, what happens, happens. And I guess if someone wants to, but is feeling too fearful to, I now no longer understand ever missing out on that kind of opportunity. Because yes, it's scary, but if you don't do it, you'll never know and you might have regrets. Or, goodness, sorry. I guess one thing, actually, Johnson from my safari, he like was talking to all of us. Everyone was kind of asking questions along the lines of, what happens if a rhino attacks? What happens if a lion attacks, etc. And he was like giving reasonable answers for, the smaller animals, whatever. And then when someone asked about the lion, he was like, if it's not your day, it's not your day. And from then on, I have used that as my motto. When I'm about to do something ridiculous, I'm like, if it's not my day, it's not my day. But I'm going to do what makes me happy and what gives me purpose. So, exactly. I mean,
I like that. It's kind of like accepting this could go good or bad, which allows you to have less fear about it, I think, because you're just accepting any outcome is possible.
Exactly. I used it for a few things after that. Goodness, I'm trying to give an example of what I did. Blue safari, like diving down really close to these creatures, never touched them or anything. I wasn't disrespectful, but it did scare me at first. And I was like, if it's not my day, it's not my day. This is cool. So I like dove down and did that. And then another time I was asked out by a local, but not like he was a bartender at one of the hostels I was staying at. And I was kind of like, I wasn't interested in him, but I also was like, this could be fun, like this could be an experience, whatever. And it ran through my mind. If it's not my day, it's not my day. And I ended up having some interesting experiences, net positive.
So thank you so much for making time for me. I do like to wrap up with one final question. So if you were given a sailboat to sail around the world in, what would you name her?
Oh, good question. Gosh, I'm not sure, honestly. Because I normally, I've like named things based on how they function for me. So if she gave me a lot of trouble, it would be more of a different name. How about kindness? I like that.
Kindness?
Yeah. Travel with kindness.
Oh, I like that. That's beautiful.
Thanks. But thanks so much for having me. I've really enjoyed doing this.
Yeah, this was fun. It was really, really great learning more about your experience and just how we were in the same place and took away different things. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed and thought of one or two people that would enjoy listening as well. Be sure to share and follow so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes.